If we could have everyone kind of move to your seats so the members can take their appropriate places up here on the stage. We want to start on time. We got a lot of people signed up that want to address the U.S. House Ag Committee. Reminder again, the only way that you get a chance to address the committee, you have to sign up. The U.S. House Ag staff's at both doors by the big doors. Go and get your name on the list. They're sorting through the cards, so make sure you get your name on the list. Again, if we could have everybody kind of move toward the seats here, that would be great. I'd like everyone to quiet down here. We're ready for the U.S. House Ag Committee listening session. I want to welcome everyone. Great to see a whole building full here, and we can thank Congressman Peterson for this cool weather. He requested it, so I'll give him a hand. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to U.S. House Ag Committee Chairman Michael Conway, and he'll take over from here.
Well,
Please welcome him.
Thank you, Kent. Up. All right, thank you, everybody. Please join me in a brief prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for the multitude of blessings that you bestowed upon this country. Thank you for this land. Thank you for these hard-working men and women who work this land to provide Americans with the safest, most abundant, and affordable food and fiber supply of any developed nation in the world. That does not come by accident, Lord. Thank you for the role these people play. Help us be good listeners today, this morning, as we go about the business of trying to craft good farm policy. Please give us wisdom and discernment to understand what's in the best interest of each of the areas that we try to represent. Now, be with us this morning. Please bless us to your service. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I ask Spencer Floyd, who is the state treasurer of the FFA, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Please join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. Collin, would you give us some wisdom here, lad?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming to Redwood Falls, and also the other members of the committee. I'm pleased that we've got 11 members here today to listen to people. You are in ground zero of some of the best agriculture land and production in the United States here. We were in Mike's district on Monday. We heard a lot about cotton and peanuts and those kinds of things, which are important. Today you'll probably hear a little bit about corn and soybeans and dairy and sugar beets and some of the issues that we have in our part of the world. We're proud of our production. We have as good a production in this part of the world as there is, I think, any place. And just for the folks that are not familiar, the crop doesn't look too bad, but it's not as good as normal. We've had our challenges this year. We've had weather challenges. The crop looked really ragged at the beginning, but it's kind of come back. But it's not as good as we've had some other years, so you need to come back when we really have the bumper crop. So we are committed here, Mike and I and the committee, to getting the Farm Bill done. We'd like to get it done this year. It's going to be depending on CBO scores and those kinds of issues, but we're going to get started here shortly. And we're here today to listen. So you're not going to hear a lot of speeches, not going to hear a lot of questions out of us. We're here to listen to you. So thank you all for being here. Mike, thank you for bringing the committee, and let's get on with it.
All right. Well, thank you, Collin. So what I'd like to do right now is to turn to our members and ask each one of them to introduce themselves briefly and tell you the committees they serve on, and if they're on the Ag Committee, subcommittee, so that you'll have a sense of kind of who you're talking to this morning. So why don't I start with Steve King. Steve? We'll go that way, and then we'll come back to Tam and go that way.
There we go. Yes, my name is Steve King. I represent Iowa's 4th Congressional District, and that's all of northwest Iowa, most of north central Iowa. I go east as far as 2 counties from Wisconsin, where corn and beans and cattle and hogs and eggs, and our roots go down about the same way yours do. So it's great to see a full building here today. I've been on the Ag Committee for 15 years, and this will be probably Farm Bill number 3 that we're getting ready to do. So I'm anxious to hear what you're going to have to deliver. Thanks.
Rodney Davis from Illinois, Central Illinois. Not too many specialty crops outside of being the horseradish capital of the world, but we have our own special crops, corn and soybeans. And excited to be here. It's great to be able to serve on the Ag Committee with Chairman Conway and Ranking Member Peterson and the rest of the folks up here. And we're here to hear from you so we can craft good policy for your future and for our future. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Roger Marshall from Kansas. I want to acknowledge Zippy Duvall out here in the audience. Zippy, stand up here from American Farm Bureau. A great friend to all of my Farm Bureau folks back in Kansas. Glad to have you here. I'm on the Nutrition Subcommittee, the Commodity Subcommittee as well. Look forward to listening.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christy Nelm. I represent the entire state of South Dakota in the U.S. House. So I was first elected in 2010. And my whole life and passion is agriculture. I took over as general manager of our 10,000-acre farm and cow-calf operation when my dad was killed in an accident at the age of 49. So we got hit with death taxes at that time, and it got me passionate about making sure that we had people who understood agriculture representing us in Washington, D.C. Now, in the House, there's 435 members, but there's less than 36 people who represent rural districts. So we have to educate a lot of people in the House of Representatives about agriculture and how important it is. And I talk about it from a national security standpoint, that if this country doesn't feed ourselves, then we're dependent on another country and then they control us. So it's important we get a good, strong farm bill. I served on the Ag Committee during the last farm bill. Now I serve on Ways and Means, which has jurisdiction over taxes and trade, and so we're active making sure that we open up new markets as well. So thank you for letting me be here today.
Super. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for coming here. I assure my southern friends this is not winter. Winter is coming. So, but thank you all for being here. My district is just south of here, the entire southern tier of Minnesota, the heart of the heartland and some of the most productive land. And in fact, my county of Blue Earth County, we're very literal people. The earth is so rich that it's literally blue is the way it looks. And one of those constituents who told me he raises corn, soybean, and boys is the Minnesota Farm Bureau President, Kevin Papp, who's here today. So Kevin, thank you for what you do. We appreciate that. So proud to have served on this committee, proud to have been part of the past 2 farm bills with the leadership of Mr. Peterson and Mr. Conway and the folks that are on here. I also serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee, the 2 places in the House of Representatives where the people's will comes first, where bipartisanship reigns, and where effectiveness in getting things done is what counts. So I thank you all for being here today and look forward to you helping us write this farm bill. Thank you.
I'm what's left of Rick Nolan, and I represented this area here back in the 1970s, that in north central Minnesota, and today I represent northeastern Minnesota. I'd like to point out that I was just a child at the time when I was representing this area, but we used to have some fun around the Congress when I came back after a little 32-year hiatus, and they said, yeah, didn't your dad serve in the past? And I got dubbed Rick Van Winkle. But in any event, I'm chairman or a ranking member. You're trying to project the future here. I'm ranking member on the Committee on Commodities and Crop Insurance. And I learned over the years I could learn a lot more about life and about good farm policy by listening to the farmers of Minnesota. So I'm delighted to be here, and I'll shut up and start listening. Thank you.
My name is Dwight Evans. I'm from the great state of Pennsylvania, and I represent part of Philadelphia and Montgomery County. But I always say to my good friend, the ranking member, that there's a direct connection between farmers and consumers. They need each other, and it's important. Pennsylvania is an agricultural state. A lot of people don't realize that when you get outside of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and I'm on the Nutrition Committee, and it's important that food is good foreign policy. I have not seen where, may it be domestically or internationally, food is a policy and it's a tool that can be used. Again, enjoy this opportunity.
I'm Tom Emmer. I represent Minnesota's 6th congressional district, which most people would think of as more of an urban district. It's about 30 to 35, 40 miles from downtown Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, starting on the Wisconsin border and wrapping around the north side of the Twin Cities. But the fact is that more than 50% of the ground in the district is still in agricultural production. And more importantly, in this state, and I think more people have to recognize it, which is why it's great that you talk about, it's about the food that we are producing, not only in this country, but around the world. More people need to understand how important this community that's in this building today is to our state and to our country and, quite frankly, the world. So I got my chops when I got into Congress working with Chair Conway and then having to deal with the humor of Mr. Walls and Mr. Grandpa Nolan. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say today and hopefully being able to go back with these wonderful people and put some policies in place or fix some policies that are already in place that will make your lives easier and make you more productive for all the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Kevin Kramer. I represent the entire state of North Dakota. And while in recent years North Dakota has become more famous for what's under the ground than what we sustain above it, we are first, foremost, and always an agrarian state, obviously. And I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and the subcommittees I serve on are Communications and Technology, where we deal an awful lot with the technology for good precision agriculture, the Energy Subcommittee, and the Environment Subcommittee. I will just say this as we kick it off. Sitting at this table are some of my very best friends in Congress. I came and was elected in 2012 and came that year that one of the first things that we did in Congress was kill a farm bill, which I didn't know was possible. And it was perhaps my worst day in the last 5 years. But we've had so many good ones since as we recovered from that, passed one, and I would just echo that these gentlemen and ladies sitting at this table are first and foremost advocates for eating and growing food, and we work on it together. Christy made the very important point, and it's hard to stress how important this is. Not only are there fewer of us by far who represent agrarian districts, there get to be fewer of us with every census. And so the importance of a coalition cannot be overstressed. And so with that, I look forward to hearing from the experts in the field.
Well, you've got a good array of members up here who have a heart for agriculture, and this is the group that we're going to rely on to help convince the other 209 that we'll need to actually get a farm bill passed on the House of Representatives. So I want to thank the folks who put together Farm Fest and set this up today for us to let us horn in on your otherwise terrific festival that you have every year. Thank you for letting us join this way. Appreciate the work that the staff has done to make all this happen. Our moderator today will be Kent Thesey. Kent is currently the Vice President of Minstar Bank in Lake City, and he's formerly with the University of Minnesota's Extension Service, Extension Educator. So in a little bit, when he starts introducing you and he starts calling the clock on you, get mad at him and not us, because we were asking you to vote for us and you don't vote for Kent. So we've asked Kent to be the bad guy this morning. As each of our members have said, we're here to listen. You won't hear much more out of us from this point forward. We're really more keenly interested in hearing from you what you have to say, what's working, what's not working. You get about 2 minutes. I know that's a very brief amount of time, but by the time all the folks who get to speak today will speak, hopefully we will cover the waterfront on what needs to be said this morning. If you haven't signed one of our cards and you still want to sign up, please sign that card so we can get you into the queue to make that happen. We will get to as many of you as you can. We're going to be here till about 12:30 to hear from you, and we'll go through as many folks as we can during that time frame. Now, there may be some differences of opinion. There were in Texas on Monday, but let's be respectful to each other. Let's listen to each other. No decisions will be made this morning. But we just need to hear the ideas. We need to get your thoughts and those kind of things. You don't have to make the decision this morning. So be respectful to each other, and I got great confidence that you will. Our first person to speak this morning will be Zippy Duval, who's the president of the American Farm Bureau. We've asked Zippy to come give us a couple of words. So, Zippy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I really appreciate the opportunity. My job today is to do the welcome, because these gentlemen have already received our recommendations from American Farm Bureau, and it's important for them to hear you. So a couple of thank yous. One, I want all of you to know I'm a farmer. I've dairied for 30 years. I got beef cattle now, about 400 cows, and I've been growing poultry for 31 years, about 750,000 broilers a year, so I'm one of you. I understand what you go through. I still got to go home and face the same problems you do, and I carry that to Washington with me every time I go to work. But this is, so thank you for being here. We appreciate it. American Farm Bureau actually 3 years ago bought the organization that owns this Farm Fest. So it's Idea Ag, and we did it because we wanted to help our farmers stay on the cutting edge of our industry. So we thank you for coming to the festival, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve you in that way. So thank you to you. And then I want to say thank you to the vendors that are here with us, the exhibitors that are outside. They've put a lot of time in here to be able to meet you face to face and talk to you about that cutting edge technology. So we want to thank them for being here in our show. And then, of course, most certainly, the most important thing, people we want to thank is the chairman and the ranking member for bringing this hearing to this show and to this area of the country. They are here to hear your voice, and this is our time. We have a lot of wonderful people in place here and in the Department of Agriculture and across in the cabinet that understand and wants to do the right thing for rural America and for agriculture. And it is our time to have our voice heard. So thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member, for being here, and thank you for being an American farmer, because I'm so proud to represent you each and every day. Welcome to this great festival, and welcome to this great exercise here that we call being an American citizen.
All right, thank you, Zippy. 2 quick points. What Kent will do is he will call up, we've got microphones on both sides. He will call 2 names to begin with. One of them will start. Once that person finishes, he'll call the 3rd name. And so while the second person is talking, that 3rd person needs to make their way to the microphone, so we keep this thing going as quickly as we can. And then, speaking on behalf of all 11 of us, we know you're thanking us for being here. Actually, we're on your payroll, so that you don't really need to thank us. So when you start your remarks, you got 2 minutes. Don't waste time pandering to the crowd up here. We're on your side, right? So just jump right into your comments. You don't need to thank us. We're here on your payroll and all that kind of good stuff. So jump right to your comments and spend your 2 minutes talking to us about what's on your heart this morning. So with that, Kent, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Conway. And as the chairman said, we do have a mic on each side, and we will. I'll be calling you up kind of one or two ahead. And so I will call up Mr. Kevin Papp and Mr. Gary Werdish. While they're coming up, just the ground rules, we will be timing you on the 2 minutes. So, and I'll be, when you got 20 seconds left, you'll get this. And when there's 10 seconds left, you get this. And when you've reached your time limit, you get this. And as Congressman Peterson and Walz and Nolan and Emmer know, the next thing is you get shut off. So they've been here before, so they know the rules and how it works. So we'll start out with Kevin Papp, President of Minnesota Farm Bureau.
Well, per the chairman's request, I won't thank you for helping reconnect the disconnect with agriculture. It's already been made. Certainly there's a lot of people that don't understand. Our connection with agriculture, farmers and ranchers, is food. So let's keep the food still in the Farm Bill. Make sure we make that connection. Other thing is the weather. We appreciate the weather today, but we can't control the weather. We've got to have risk management tools in the Farm Bill. Crop insurance, revenue insurance. Personally, I was involved in a hailstorm this year where we lost the corn and the bean crop on one farm. And it's that crop insurance. I'm not going to make any money at that this year, but I'm going to be able to farm again next year because of those risk management tools. So do what we can, not to harm, save what we can, but also help us make that connection. We've got a lot of financial stress out there in agriculture right now. We got low prices. The way to raise low prices is to increase demand. Trade is not the biggest part of the Farm Bill, but it's a big part of agriculture. So continue to help us with trade. We're fortunate. We can grow more than we can use. We need that 96% of the world as our market. You can't do trade without transportation. Not something maybe in this committee, but things you can do in Congress. Help us to get it to those markets. The last thing I would just ask is help us to understand how important not only things like this today are, but for those farmers and ranchers to share their story with their members of Congress, but also their other families, for those that aren't in those 35 or 36 districts. So again, thank you for that. We appreciate it. We know that we've got a lot of commodities in this state and this country. Time is the most precious commodity. I won't say thank you for your time because the chairman asked me not to.
Thank you, Kevin. The next person we want to call up is Harold Woolley Jr. Our next speaker will be Gary Wardish, president of Minnesota Farmers Union. Gary?
Thank you, Kent. I will waste a little bit of my time to thank the committee and thank the chairman for being here. So it's very important to be here, and I liked your comment earlier, and we visited earlier too, about you're here to listen. We want to thank you for coming out here and listening to. These are the real people, people that you're affecting, people that everything you do there does affect. The Farm Bill is probably the most important piece of legislation for rural, not only farmers. It's a safety net for farmers, but it's a safety net for rural America. It's a safety net for America, for the food security. So thank you for coming out here. And Minnesota Farmers Union, we just completed about 16 rural discussion voices sessions around the state listening. And the Farm Bill was obviously came to the top. We need the safety net, we need conservation programs, we need all that type of stuff. But a few things I want to bring up. Mr. Evans made a comment, Congressman Evans made a comment about consumers. The nutrition title came up in every one of our meetings. The importance of the nutrition title. In the last Farm Bill, there was an attempt to remove the nutrition title from the bill. I'd encourage all of you not to hold tight, and it's very important to keep that in there. One of the administrators that administers the nutrition program within the state of Minnesota, he said the average length of stay of a person on the food stamp, formerly food stamp, now the SNAP program, is 9 months. And of that 9 months, the majority of those people got put in that situation for either a health care issue or a loss of a job. And I saw this morning in a news clip, there was a recent study that shows there is a higher percentage of rural people using the SNAP program than there are urban. So it's very important to keep that in the program. The other parts that came up, rural development, how important rural development is to be needed to stay in the program, in the Farm Bill. You got all the small towns and communities that are able to access programs there. Broadband is a huge issue. We got an example of one of the meetings that we conducted I better move on. But anyway, then the other issue I do want to talk about is health care. That came up in every meeting. Everything we're talking about today, if we don't get some prices on the farm, we're going to lose farmers. We're going to have another washout in agriculture. We are faced with a crisis. So on top of that, health care needs to get figured out. You got a lot of people, everybody can't work off the job to get health care. It's just a huge cost, and people are tired of politics legislators playing politics with our health care. And it's time to go back. With the recent failure in the Senate, we're hoping that the House, you guys go back, you sit down and work together. It's an issue. We can work on it. We can fix it. There's things that can be done. Take the politics out of it. Everybody in this room is affected by health care. And I know it's not part of the Ag Committee, but it's an issue you all need to work on. And as I said, take the politics out of it. Let's get it figured out. Sit down and do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. The next speaker to call up to the mic in the on-deck area is Sadie Frericks. Next, we'll hear from Harold Woolley Jr., president of Minnesota Corn Growers Association.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, there's two things I'd like to comment on today: world trade and conservation. As you know, I don't have to sit here and quote facts and figures. You know that world trade is very important to us. I just got back from the U.S. Grains Council meeting at midnight last night. It was held in Portland, and there we discussed world trade. U.S. Grains Council helps exports happen. And they get, you say, well, what's world trade have to do with the Ag Committee? Well, you fund the Foreign Ag Service, which a part of that is the Foreign Market Development and Market Access Program. Those funds are vitally critical to us and the Grains Council and to world trade. So please consider that as we move forward on the 2018 Farm Bill. The other thing is conservation. Here again, some acronyms: CRP, CSP, and EQIP, all vitally important to us. We're bumping up in most of our counties in Minnesota against that 24 million acre cap. I'd sure like to see that raised substantially higher so that we can get the lands that need to be in that program in the program. I think that there's some room to lower the rental rates and increase the acres. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person called up to the on-deck area will be Darwin Bach. And next we'll hear from Sadie Frericks, who's a dairy farmer leader with Land O'Lakes.
Thank you. Congressman, Congresswoman, good morning. As Ken said, I'm Sadie Frericks. I'm a dairy farmer from Melrose, Minnesota, right on the edge of Ranking Member Peterson's district. My husband and I, along with our 3 children, Dan, Monica, and Daphne, milk 75 cows on our first-generation dairy farm. On behalf of my cooperative Land O'Lakes and our 2,400 dairy farmer members, I'm here today to address the dairy title, specifically the Margin Protection Program. Our farm was built from scratch. We don't have generations of equity to fall back on in the event of another market collapse, so safety nets are imperative for a farm like ours. We already restructured our loans once in 2009, and I don't like to think about doing that again. So that's why we were really excited when the Margin Protection Program was rolled out. We strongly support a program that is based on both milk revenue and feed prices. Unfortunately, the Margin Protection Program isn't working. In 2015 and 2016, after careful consideration with our financial analyst, we enrolled at the $6.50 margin protection level. We actually need an $8 margin to maintain fiscal responsibility on our farm, but the premium difference between $6.50 and $8 did not seem like the best way to spend our hard-earned money. So we enrolled at the $6.50 level. In the end, after a year of dismal prices, the indemnity that we received barely equaled the premium that we paid. So in 2017, knowing that the program wasn't providing the insurance that we'd hoped for, and because prices were forecasted as higher, we enrolled at the $4 level. I encourage you to look for ways to make the Margin Protection Program more affordable and to provide better coverage. There are lots of ideas about how to do this, and I'm not going to pretend to know which is the best for both farmers and the budget. But I encourage you to find a way to provide better security for dairy farmers, and I look forward to helping you doing so.
Thank you very much. I've been asked to remind those of you speaking to get a little closer to the mic. They're having a little trouble kind of hearing you out in the back, so please, the mic's your friend, get up nice and close there. Our next person to the on-deck speaking area will be Travis Keister. Now we'll hear from Darwin Bach with the Land Stewardship Project.
Good morning. My name is Darwin Bach. I farm 650 acres of corn and soybeans about 80 miles west of here in Yellow Medicine County. I'm here to speak today for the Land Stewardship Project, which is a farm and rural organization based here in Minnesota. Here are some of the key components we'd like to see in the next farm bill. Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program. This is a program we helped establish. We continue to monitor it. It's well run, and it has a demonstrated need for it. We'd ask for $50 million of permanent funding to be put into the next farm bill. CRP. Before we start talking about how many acres should be on CRP, we need to address some of the issues surrounding CRP rental rates. And we need to make sure that the acres that are put into CRP are targeted towards marginal and sensitive land. CSP. We strongly support a program that encourages farmers to do good conservation work on their working lands. CSP can do that, but it does need some work. The number one problem with CSP is that the payment rate for existing practices is much too low. Farmers need to be rewarded for the good conservation outcomes that they're producing. EQIP. There's a livestock set-aside portion in EQIP. We want this money to be targeted towards beginning and family-sized operations. We don't need to be subsidizing 5,000 and 10,000 cow dairy operations. Taxpayers don't need to be subsidizing contractors for large corporate hog farm operations. Okay, here's the elephant in the room, crop insurance. We want a $50,000 limit on the subsidy per operator. Commodity groups are going to look up from their subsidy trough and whine and squeal about this one, but the fact is it's the only program that doesn't have any limit whatsoever. In my operation, for example, I can farm in a corn soybean rotation 3,000 acres before I'd hit that limit. If you're farming 3,000 acres and can't afford that last quarter of land without help from the taxpayer paying for the insurance on that quarter, don't rent it. Looks like I'm out of time. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next person to come to the on-deck area is Dr. Bev Durgan. Next, we will hear from Travis Keister with the Minnesota-Iowa Crop Insurance Group.
Yeah, my name is Travis Keister, and I'm a crop insurance agent out of Blue Earth, Minnesota. And I have just 3 points to make to you all today. First of all, the crop insurance system today is working. It's working. We have not had an ad hoc disaster bill in over a decade. This program is working right now. Another testament to that is in 2012, during the massive drought, this program handled that situation effectively and efficiently. So it's working. The second thing is Congressman Kind from Wisconsin has a number of amendments on the table. Subsidy caps, AGI means testing, and the elimination of the harvest price option when it comes to revenue protection. Bottom line is, these amendments will kill the program. This program is based out of participation in acres. Dr. Art Barnaby from Kansas State University did a study. If you put any caps or eliminate any of these programs, you will see up to 40% of the acres disappear from this program, and the program will collapse upon itself. If you're a small farmer out there right now and you look at a large producer and you think they need a subsidy, you're going to cut your nose off to spite your face. Your premiums will escalate and increase because of fewer participation levels in the program. Bottom line is, farming's going through a tough time right now. We've seen the biggest decrease in on-farm revenue since the Great Depression. We need a stable program. We need a stable risk protection policy in place, and we thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. Our next person to the on-deck area is Jerry Motzner. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Bev Durgan with the University of Minnesota Extension.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here today. Today I'd like to talk about the importance of the Farm Bill, not only to Minnesota farmers, but also to the University of Minnesota. And I'd like to specifically talk about Title VII of the Farm Bill, which provides funding for research, extension, and education to our nation's land-grant universities, including the University of Minnesota. This money from Title VII allows the University of Minnesota to respond to the needs of Minnesota agriculture, both in research and, as I said, in extension. The Smith-Lever funding, specifically extension funding, makes up 15% of the funding that we have for extension here in Minnesota. And this funding allows us to respond to the many issues that our rural communities are facing. It also allows us to provide the high-quality 4-H programs that over 100,000 youth in this state are involved with. So that federal funding is very important for us. It also allows us to work across states. Many of our issues now are not just within Minnesota, but across states. In Minnesota and North Dakota State University have been leaders in working across states. And in fact, right now we have 5 joint faculty positions with North Dakota State that work on issues of sugar production, potato production, nutrition education around our nutrition title, and also in recent position in sheep production. So working across state lines, our federal funding really allows us to be able to do that. Also, it allows us to really respond to issues that were talked about today, things around weather, our issues around high-path avian influenza that we had in the state and we hope not to have again, and our federal funding allows us to do that. It also allows us to respond to some of the issues we're seeing now with our financial stress. So with that, I would like you to thank you for our capacity funds, but also for our competitive things, our AFRI funding, and that funding also allows us to respond to issues around communities, around leadership, and also agriculture production. So with that, remember Title VII in the Farm Bill, and that money really is used to support agriculture in our rural communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durgan. Our next person to the on-deck area will be Ian Cunningham. Next, we'll hear from Jerry Motzner with Century Farm Organics.
Hi, I am part owner of Century Farm Organics near Clarkfield, Minnesota, about 45 minutes from here. We have approximately 1,500 organic acres that includes an organic dairy milking 120 organic Jersey cows. Our organic farm has 6 full-time employees and 4 part-time employees. We fully support 6 families and partially support 4 families through our 1,500 organic acres. Your support of the organic industry is critical to keeping small family farms and helping grow the rural economy. We are also mentoring 3 other farm families within 15 miles of our farm as they transition their land to organic. These families are all doing this transition so they can either farm without an off-farm job, or they have children they want to bring into the farm, but they can't support their kids' families with the acres they have. They are making a voluntary business decision to go organic. 2 requests. First, the organic industry is a $47 billion industry with at least 8% growth year over year. And while the industry grows, unfortunately, the National Organic Program resources have not. While $9 million a year for program oversight and enforcement may have gotten us to $47 billion, it is not keeping pace now. We ask for an increase in the next Farm Bill for an authorization of $15 million per year with a 10% growth in funding every year for the National Organic Program. Second, the organic industry is supported by customers who are willing to pay a premium when they can trust that the product they are buying has been produced or based on certain strict standards. This has created 2 issues: interests that want to weaken the standards and fraudulent actors. We ask for your support in maintaining the integrity of the organic seal. The Farm Bill should not seek to change organic production standards or how they are established. The process we have now works. What is not working well enough is adequate enforcement on fraudulent imported grain. The organic prices on corn and soybeans have decreased by about 40% over the past 2 years. This was primarily driven by the large increases in imports, some of which have been discovered to be fraudulent. This price decrease has cost our farm $160,000 alone. Approximately 60 full tankers of corn have come from Turkey in the past year. That is an 800% increase since 2014, and we know most of that is fraudulent grain. What's needed? Upgrade the tracking system for international grain, require all grain brokers and traders to be certified, get more NOP investigators in place, and more dollars for organic research. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next person to the on-deck area will be Tom Nussmeier. Next, we will hear from Ian Cunningham, National Association of Conservation Districts.
My name is Ian Cunningham. I'm currently a senior member of a 5th-generation family farm near Pipestone, Minnesota. I'm also one of 445 publicly elected Soil and Water Conservation District board members in Minnesota, and one of over 17,000 men and women who serve on the governing boards of nearly 3,000 conservation districts across the United States and its territories. Currently, I'm a member of the executive board of the National Association of Conservation Districts representing the North Central states. I'm also past president of the Minnesota Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. In Minnesota, as in other parts of the country, the conservation delivery team consists of the local Soil and Water Conservation District, the state's conservation agency, and our federal partners at NRCS. We have a successful track record of working together on privately owned cropland, grazing land, forests, and in urban settings to deliver healthier soil, cleaner water, and other benefits to society. The conservation delivery team works with landowners and operators day in and day out to help them proactively manage the natural resources that produce food, fiber, fuel, and shelter. I cannot think of anything that is more important to the security of our country. In the upcoming Farm Bill, I ask that you fight to maintain the USDA's ability to do their part. The conservation title took a 10% funding cut in the 2014 Farm Bill and continues to be cut annually during the appropriations process. NACD believes that at a minimum, no further cut should occur in the next Farm Bill to the conservation title. We hope to see Congress increase its funding. Technical assistance and conservation planning are critical tools and first steps in evaluating producers' resource needs. Conservation technical assistance is different from technical assistance that kicks in once a Farm Bill program contract is established. Farmers don't take what we do lightly. It takes some time to explore options and build a trusting relationship with the conservation delivery team members. Congress should include language in the next Farm Bill that emphasizes the importance of technical assistance provided through the Conservation Technical Assistance Program. And EQIP is the workhorse of the conservation title, and because of its crucial role, EQIP baseline funding should be increased, or at very least maintained in the next Farm Bill. We look forward to working with you as the Farm Bill takes shape.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, I'd like to call Chris Wolem. And next we will hear from Tom Neusmeyer, a Minnesota farmer.
Yes, I farm near Le Sueur, Minnesota. 200 acres, diversified crops with fair to finish hogs. I use crop insurance, receive commodity payments, have enrolled our farm in the Conservation Stewardship Program, and have some acres in CRP. And I'm a Land Stewardship Project member. I'm concerned about water. Our well water is still pretty good, but I'm aware of the increasing number of rural wells contaminated by nitrates and of the impaired lakes, rivers, and streams classified as impaired. This is a slow unfolding crisis, not only in Minnesota, but across the country. And we know that agriculture is a primary contributor to this problem in our rural areas. We also know that crop diversification on farms is the most effective approach in addressing water resource concerns because of the resulting improved soil health, decrease in soil erosion, and the reduction of off-farm inputs that contribute to contaminating our water. Yet between the last two farm bills, support for the CSP program that got me to diversify our farm even more dried up. When I re-enrolled, the payment for continuing these practices and adding even more was nearly half. Yet at the same time, when corn prices were going through the roof, I could have accessed more support from commodity and crop insurance title to plow up my perennial crops, plant the biggest moneymaker, and reverse the water-protecting cropping system we had built into our farm. That doesn't make sense. It's bad farm policy and ignores the water quality issue that we'll be forced to address in one way or another. Our public dollars in the Farm Bill should benefit the public good. Water is a public good. Investment in robust and effective conservation programs is an effective way to do this, and it's critical that we address this where a majority of our water quality problems start, and that's where the solutions are to be found, and that's on farms like mine. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call Katie Benson. We will now hear from Chris Wolem, President of the Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association.
Chairman Conway, Ranking Member Peterson, and Committee. I'm Chris Wolem, a third-generation cattleman from Porter, Minnesota, and the current president of the Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association. I would like to mention today the need for a stronger and more adequate foot and mouth disease vaccine bank. Please let me be very clear. An FMD outbreak is of great concern to the beef industry. FMD is a highly contagious and has the potential to spread widely and rapidly, debilitating our herd and our sector of the agriculture industry. Analysts estimate that an FMD outbreak in the United States could potentially cost our nation's livestock producers billions of dollars in the first 12 months alone. An FMD outbreak has the potential to cause enormous economic losses to not only livestock producers, but also to auction markets, processing plants, food processors, crop farmers, as well as consumers. The Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association is requesting support for the creation of a larger and more sufficient FMD vaccine bank in the 2018 Farm Bill. This will include a request for an additional dedicated funds of $150 million a year for 5 years to develop a more robust bank. And finally, I would ask that you help us protect the National Beef Checkoff. The Checkoff is a producer-led and funded research and promotion program which has helped our industry with food safety, nutrition, recipe development, and the successful Beef It's What's for Dinner. The success of the Beef Checkoff is why the majority of beef producers in this country still support it, and we will fight any attempts to attack, change, or kill the National Beef Checkoff. On behalf of the Minnesota cattle producers, we thank you for allowing me to comment, and we look forward to working with each of you in developing the 2018 Farm Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up to the on-deck area, I'd like to call Carol Crush, and now we'll hear from Katie Benson, Minnesota State FFA President.
Good morning. My name is Katie Benson. I am from Staples, Minnesota, which is in the central area. I will be attending the University of Minnesota Twin Cities this year, and I'm serving as the state president of the FFA, where I have the honor to represent 11,000 FFA members from across the state and about 650,000 FFA members across the country. And my FFA background and my experience in agriculture is very non-traditional. My family was never involved with farming or agriculture, and so I never even understood agriculture until a close family friend gave me 10 turkeys to raise. And I began raising poultry, and I became involved with FFA and 4-H, and from there, I learned about the career opportunities within agriculture. And because of the opportunities there, I will be pursuing a degree in agricultural education this fall. However, there are lots of classmates that I have that were not made aware of all of these career opportunities in agriculture. There are about 23,000 career openings within the agricultural industry that go unfilled each year, and we have thousands of students that are interested in science and technology areas that can help us to fill that gap. And so what we really need is policy that helps support youth in agriculture to bring them back to the farm or to go back into the agricultural industry. So we would like to see in the 2018 Farm Bill legislation that creates a position in the United States Department of Agriculture for a youth in agriculture coordinator that helps to bridge that gap between the students and all of these agricultural careers. So thank you for continuing to support us in the FFA and for supporting the next generation of agriculture.
Thank you. To the on-deck area, we'd like to call Emily Piper. And next we'll hear from Carol Crush, Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor and landowner.
Farming is in my blood, like most of you here today. My sons are fifth-generation farmers in southern Minnesota. I'm currently a second-term soil and water supervisor in Blue Earth County. Formerly, I served as an elected county committee member for the Farm Service Agency. I am asking, as a supervisor, that you do whatever you can to increase the funding for conservation in the new Farm Bill, or at the very least, do not make any cuts. At the local level, we have very good, dedicated people to put programs in place. We have the ability to work with the local landowners to assess and figure out what farm programs will work on their individual farms. But we absolutely need all the funding that we can get to do this. Everyone in the whole community will benefit from the actions that we take to improve and sustain water quality and soil health. On a more personal level, as an advocate for ag and the small family farm, please continue to fund crop insurance. We need that very important safety net, but I'm asking you also to consider placing a cap on the amount that is funded at the top end, as it seems to give the huge farmers an advantage over the small family farm. In all your legislation, please keep in mind that the younger beginning farmers will need our help. We need to give them the ability to make a decent living through their hard work to feed the world, bring money into the local economy, and to take the best care possible of our greatest resources of land and water. I want to say lastly that I will continue to be an advocate for agriculture. We appreciate all you have done, and our prayers are with you.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, I'd like to call David Buck, and our next presenter will be Emily Piper, who is the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Human Services.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Emily Piper. I'm Commissioner of DHS here in Minnesota. And our mission is to help people meet their basic needs so they can live in dignity and reach their highest potential. And one of our most significant programs to combat hunger, to help support people all across the state of Minnesota, is SNAP. In Minnesota, 645,000 people, almost 12% of our state's population, receive SNAP every month. And 70% of those people are people with disabilities, children, and seniors all across our state. The average per meal benefit that folks receive on SNAP is about $1.17. Our farmers in Minnesota work hard every day to feed a hungry world, Minnesotans included. In this congressional district alone, over 85% of people who receive SNAP have been employed in the last 12 months. And these are our neighbors serving in restaurants, the working poor, sometimes in temporary seasonal employment, and oftentimes on farms themselves. We know that food security for the hungry at the expense of economic security for the men and women who grow the food in the first place is a false choice. We know that taking SNAP out of the Farm Bill, as has been considered in the past, would separate the farmer from the hungry and the grower from our growing children and do a disservice to all. Maybe we know this because we're the state that educated Norman Borlaug at the University of Minnesota, who began the Green Revolution that saved 1 billion lives across the world from starvation. Maybe it's because we're home to so many companies who feed so many people all across the world. And maybe it's because our farmers aren't growing food for its own sake, but because they expect and are proud of the fact that it will be eaten, all the better if by hungry people. My hope is we won't stand for efforts to divide the safety net for farmers from the safety net for families, but instead that we will stand together against such efforts. We're stronger when we honor the dignity of both the farmers who do the work to produce the food and the dignity that each hungry person has. And not only are we stronger for it, we're better for it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next to the on-deck area, would like to call Bruce Peterson. Our next presenter will be David Buck, who's president of Minnesota Milk Producers.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My family and I are dairy farmers near Goodhue, which is in southeast Minnesota. We have two major issues, I guess, in the dairy industry right now, and I have pretty much had a front row seat to both of those issues. We operate 2 dairy farms. The one we had bought most recently was signed up for the margin protection plan. At home we did not sign up. We chose to go the LGM route for risk protection. The MPP needs some changes made to it, as I think Sadie alluded to earlier. Maybe going back to the original proposal with feed cost would help, and also maybe allowing some flexibility between the LGM and MPP. MPP is a safety net. LGM is insurance. We also raise crops to feed all our animals, so we participate in the crop insurance program and ARC, and you can do both. On the dairy side, you have to choose one or the other, and it's, if we could find some way to integrate those two, I think it would be beneficial. Possibly lifting the dollar limits on LGMs, that there's more money that could go into that program. We had the same experience basically as the previous speaker on dairy, that we chose the 650 level, and it was a very tough year, and you don't even get your premium back. That really sours you going forward in the next year. But so I think some changes have to be made on that side. The labor issue is another one. It's the #1 issue our staff hears about. Southeast Minnesota, I think, had a 2.9% unemployment rate recently. 4% is considered full employment, and it's very difficult to find people to work. We used to milk 3 times a day on our dairy farms, and we went to twice a day, just from a labor standpoint. So you lose a little productivity that way. Possibly changing the H-2A visas, or coming up with some type of visa that would allow workers to come for more than 10 months at a time. We work 24/7, 365 on dairy farms, so we need labor to accomplish that. One last note, trade is very important to the dairy industry. 15% of our production is exported, so let's do everything we can to keep that trade going. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker to call up to the on-deck area is Melissa Sabalik. And next we're going to hear from Bruce Peterson, who's a board member with the Minnesota Corn Growers.
Good morning. I farm over in the Northfield area with two brothers, and we've got four of the next generation also involved on the farm. I want to address one key component of the Farm Bill, or two actually. The first one would be Title I. I don't need to remind you that with the last Farm Bill, we made this big step from direct payments to ARC PLC. Certainly we're going to see some bumps in the roads with that big of a change, but it's something that I can defend when we've got a program that's based on either revenue per acre or a reference price compared to direct payments. I can defend that. I had a hard time defending direct payments when we were getting those with $5 corn, but ARC and PLC have not been perfect. I think you're going to look at making some small changes, not sweeping changes. I farm in the corner of Rice County. I also go across into two other counties, so I see the differences from county to county. I think that needs to be maybe addressed a little bit. But anyway, I think the main thing is we can defend the current Title I program. The second thing is crop insurance. All I can say is please protect it. It's so vitally important to primarily young farmers, but with low prices, maybe you don't necessarily have to be so young to obtain credit. It's a key component of obtaining credit. Somebody touched on it earlier. Even though we're in Minnesota, we've got pretty stable yields from year to year. It seems like about every rainstorm that's gone through this summer, it's got hail somewhere in it. We had hail on about 2,000 acres back in June on a day that was about like this. It was in the 60s, and we got hail. It's just crazy. So you never really know what you're going to get. But the second component, not only to the financing part, but the marketing part, with that crop insurance policy in hand, you look at a lot of the marketing charts over the last 2-3 years, you usually get about 1 week to market the crop, and it's long before harvest. So it's having that crop insurance in hand that allows you to market when you actually have some profitable opportunities. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call Brent Davison, and our next presenter will be Melissa Sobolik with Great Plains Food Bank.
Well, good morning. I have the privilege of working as the director of Ending Hunger 2.0 at the Great Plains Food Bank, which serves all of North Dakota and western Minnesota. Last year, we served over 94,000 people. 36% of them were children and 11% were seniors. We serve people like Willard Carpenter. Willard, he's 71, he's a Vietnam vet, he's a farmer, and to this day is still driving truck. He lives in a farm in northern North Dakota with his wife, and he raises potatoes, alfalfa, and oats. He's a proud, lumbering man who's quick to admit that he has never shied away from hard work, not even when an accident resulted in the loss of his arm 45 years ago. He utilizes veterans benefits for health care and medications, but every month he and Linda still come up short. They visit our mobile food pantry where they receive TFAP products and fresh produce, and they're on SNAP. They used to get $175 a month in benefits, but now are only getting $50, which doesn't go very far. Willard's prairie pride and his strong work ethic made it hard for him to ask for help, and now he's hoping that these federal nutrition programs will continue to be there for him. We, as food banks, are doing everything we can to connect people to food, but the reality is we're already stretched very thin. Any cuts or significant changes to SNAP would increase the demand on our services, and unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to fill that gap. Our food bank, like so many others, incur high costs when storing, transporting, and distributing TFAP commodities, especially in rural areas. In order to alleviate these costs, the Farm Bill authorizes $100 million per year for TFAP storage and distribution funds. These funds are meant to reimburse the costs associated with distributing commodities, yet the $45 million actually appropriated covers about 24% of our costs. Lastly, we ask your committee to look into redefining rural within the Rural Development Program. We serve the entire state of North Dakota, including the farthest, most remote corners, yet we are not eligible for rural development finance programs because our physical warehouse is located in Fargo. Altering the language would include a lot of organizations who serve rural areas and would be a great benefit to hunger relief organizations across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, I'd like to call up Kate Mendenhall, and our next presenter will be Brent Davidson with Mindak Farmers Co-op. He's the board chair.
Good morning. My name is Brent Davison. Along with my wife Barb and son Chad, we farm at Tinton, Minnesota. I'm also chairman of the board of directors at Mindak Farmers Cooperative in Wahpeton, which is a sugar beet processing plant, which is owned by approximately 488 families that grow sugar beets on 100,000 acres. Good trade agreements, strong sugar policy, and crop insurance are all vital elements to any farm bill, but also equally as important is research funding. The future of any industry lies in the research that it's doing today. Unfortunately, there are several sugar beet scientists who are about to retire. We need timely replacements and adequate funding to address the problems that we face in the years ahead. Sugar beets are grown on about 1.1 million acres nationwide. We are heavily dependent on research to fight a variety of challenges, such as weed control, rhizomania, Cercospora leaf spot, rhizoctonia, phantomyces, and curly top. Any one of these problems can destroy a crop and also a co-op. The industry has a desperate need for a virologist, a nematologist, and a plant breeder. We need to quickly fill these positions. The University of Minnesota and NDSU do a fantastic job with the funding available. In particular, the research that they do on Cercospora leaf spot that dramatically reduces yield, quality, storability, and processing efficiency. Their continued research in this particular area is imperative to our business going forward. Our research needs are urgent and serious. Ignoring them jeopardizes our future. I implore the committee to make sugar beet research funding a priority in the 2018 Farm Bill to ensure a brighter future for both our families and our customers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person to the on-deck area will be Gary Peterson. And next we'll hear from Kate Mendenhall, Director of Organic Farmers Association.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Conway and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the needs of U.S. organic farmers. I'm Kate Mendenhall, Director of Organic Farmers Association, and I'm also a beginning farmer transitioning land to organic in Northwest Iowa. Organic Farmers Association was created in 2016 from a grassroots effort of organic farmers and organic farm organizations who wanted an organization to provide a strong and unified national voice for domestic certified organic producers. U.S. consumers are demanding more organic food and have driven the U.S. organic market by 10% annually since 2002, reaching $47 billion in organic sales and over 25,000 U.S. certified organic farmers and processors. However, domestic organic production is not keeping pace with demand, and organic imports are filling this gap. Farm Bill policies can help U.S. farmers keep U.S. organic dollars here at home. A small but important Farm Bill program is the Organic Certification Cost Share Assistance, which provides organic farmers with modest reimbursements for a portion of their annual certification fees. Both the National Organic Certification Cost Share Program and the Agricultural Management Assistance Act should be renewed with increased mandatory funding to meet the projected U.S. market demand. Not only is this program important to current certified organic farmers and those considering organic transition, but it invests in the future of farming, supporting the next generation of farmers to be able to enter the growing organic market, the fastest growing sector of U.S. agriculture. The organic market is built on strong standards and organic integrity. As U.S. organic market continues to grow by billions of sales annually, the National Organic Program must also grow to meet the needs for enforcement of our rigorous national organic standards. Funding for the National Organic Program must be increased so the agency has the necessary resources to perform its oversight and enforcement activities, keeping pace with the growth of the organic sector. Congressman Rodney Davis recently said that as we look at the future of American agriculture, it's vital that we invest in public agricultural research. Organic agriculture is the future of American agriculture, and we need more research for organic farming. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call Dieta Billick. Our next presenter will be Gary Peterson with the Minnesota Association of Townships.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I represent 1,781 townships in Minnesota, and the issue that I want to direct our area today is broadband. We're the have-nots across the state of Minnesota in the rural part of Minnesota, and once you get outside of the metro area, we do not have the required needs for broadband. It's so vital to our economic development in our rural areas. It's the only thing left that's going to keep our people in rural Minnesota. We need to take a look at how we are funding broadband and the internet service in rural America, and I think it needs to be looked at more like a utility. It is really what it is, and it's a have to be. It's not an extra, it's not something that we want. It's a need. Everything we do, we turn, and pretty soon we're connecting to the internet to do whatever we're doing. Whether it's medical, education, small businesses, agriculture, you can just go right down the list. I would like to see you take on some of these large companies who really, the only thing they're looking at is the bottom line. It's the dollars that they're in it for. They're not going to get the broadband to rural Minnesota where the population is low. And that's where we need the help. And I can't stress that enough. And so please do whatever you can to put dollars to maybe make this thing a utility, and let's get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person to the on-deck area will be Robert Lang. Our next presenter will be Dieta Billick with a certified organic producer.
I am Dieta Billick, and we have a small farm in central Minnesota. We've been certified organic for 19 years. I have in my past been involved with a certification agency, and I worked for Sustainable Farming Association for a number of years ago. I've seen a lot of growth in what the Farm Bill has had to offer for farmers who are looking at transitioning to more sustainable practices and going organic certified. I think that if we can strengthen these programs for research, for opportunities for farmers to learn how they can transition, there's a lot of good things that have happened over that time that I've seen. I think we need to strengthen it further, and we need to have better enforcement of, and I think 2 prior speakers are talking about similar things as I am. So the markets are important, so our exports are important, but also the opportunity to be able to sell your product here in this country. So looking at those imports has become a big concern, that there's actually some fraud going on. The products aren't actually certified organic, they're finding. So we need to have more enforcement opportunities, strengthen the NOP, National Organic Program. Apparently, with the growth of organic, they need more funding to actually have more staff that can take care of the issues. With the certification agencies watching over that and other things too. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call Noah Holtgren, and our next presenter will be Robert Lang.
Thank you. I am Robert Lang from Windham, Minnesota. We farm in Jackson and Redwood counties. We purchased a farm in 2007. It was never in the farm program, and it doesn't allow us to collect any farm payment from that. I was told at the time that there were about 133 farmers that are not allowed in the program also, but the amendment would help us to sign up. We have kept records. We've certified to the county committee, and Larry Struckenberger of Jackson County needs help that we can admit these other farmers, which are small in number, to the farm program. We have, let's see, We need crop insurance. That is very important to us. We also need the ability to have estate tax relief, because there are just a small number of farmers in Minnesota that need that help, but it will help us to pass our farms, even though there are only a small number of us, but it would help us tax-wise to pass our farms to the next generation. We need support in our market prices. Our corn market had varied only this past year by about 35 cents, and that is no way to market, because when we have debt to pay, we need the high point of the market, and the high point only lasts a few days and it's gone. You haven't got a chance. So any support. Our soybean market, I think, has dropped about $1.70 a bushel this last short time, and we need support in that. I thank you for listening to me. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, I'll call Robert Green. Our next presenter will be Noah Holmgren, past president, Minnesota Corn Growers Association.
Thank you. I don't have a prepared statement, so I might be kind of short, but I want to emphasize the importance of the Farm Bill and crop insurance. On our farm, and like many others in my area, we employ 10+ employees at certain times of the year. And so there's multiple families that our farm draws income from, and it's just important that we continue funding on the Farm Bill for that. I also want to point out, we talk about young farmers. Statistically, I am a young farmer at almost 40, but crop insurance is so important to me. We've got 3 families directly that drive income from our farm, and if we did not have crop insurance, we wouldn't be able to survive. We had weather issues this year, just like other people. We had a whole 80 of corn that got hailed out, and normally, I mean, if we didn't have crop insurance, we wouldn't be able to survive. We needed that to basically, break even possibly, and so we can farm again. So, and I've got 3 daughters, and I've got nieces and nephews that want to farm in the future, and that's why it's so vitally important to continue funding on the Farm Bill, and crop insurance is so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call Paul Kavistad. And our next presenter is Robert Green, Chairman, American Crystal Sugar.
Thank you. I am Robert Green. And along with my wife, my son and his wife, we grow sugar beets, wheat, soybeans, and dried beans near St. Thomas, North Dakota. I am chairman of the board of directors of American Crystal Sugar, where I've been chairman since 2011 and have served on the board since 2005. American Crystal is the largest beet sugar cooperative in the United States, with around 3,000 farmer shareholders who grow over 400,000 acres of sugar beets each year in eastern North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. We employ about 2,000 people across our 5 factories in the Red River Valley, and we also own and operate Sydney Sugars in Sydney, Montana. Over the past 5 years, sugar prices have been depressed, often falling close to the loan forfeiture level established in the Farm Bill. Our growers cannot survive at this level. With current low refined sugar market prices, payments to growers have dropped significantly, jeopardizing the ability of established farms to acquire operating loans for the coming year and threatening the viability of sugar beet farming for young persons. The extended period of depressed prices can mostly be attributed to the flood of subsidized dump sugar entering our market from Mexico. We thank the members of this committee and Secretaries Ross and Perdue for working to stop the Mexican dumping and subsidizing that collapsed our market and caused $4 billion in damage to the domestic industry. We are hopeful that the new amended suspension agreements governing Mexican sugar exports will help correct that damage and provide stability to our market. We ask that this committee continue to express to the administration the importance of monitoring and enforcing those agreements. With an annual economic impact of $5 billion, sugar beet growing and processing is the lifeblood of the Red River Valley. I am a fourth-generation farmer, and I am hopeful that with the amended suspension agreements and a strong sugar provision in the 2018 Farm Bill, that my children and grandchildren will have a future growing sugar beets and an opportunity to continue the proud tradition of American Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter to the on-deck area we'll call Collin Moriarty, and our next presenter will be Paul Quistad.
Thank you. I'm a fourth-generation farmer and second-generation turkey grower from Yell Medicine County near Wood Lake, Minnesota. And on behalf of the Minnesota Turkey Growers Association and all those who rely upon the industry in the state for their livelihood, we're here today to support animal disease prevention in the Farm Bill. After the devastating outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza in our state, we must do all we can to avoid to see it in the future. To see friends watch entire flocks die in a matter of hours was absolutely devastating. That is why we are supporting the mantra of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure by advocating for a new program that focuses on animal pest and disease prevention. We are thankful that Senator Klobuchar has agreed to lead the effort in the Senate and look forward to working with you, Chairman Conway, and Ranking Member Peterson to authorize the fund and look forward to this forward-looking approach in the House bill. Since the 2015 outbreak, the turkey industry has made significant strides, and in a similar case of high path in Indiana last year indicates our improvements, but we still lost critical export markets and will continue to do so unless we limit the frequency and the scope of future events. We can do better and still have plenty to learn about the spread, containment, and eradication of these types of diseases. As the committee embarks on the reauthorization of the bill, MTGA supports the National Turkey Federation and over 70 associations that are asking for the inclusion of a mandatory program to the Farm Bill. This program will be designed to limit the impacts of diseases of all animal agriculture producers when an outbreak occurs. This program will use federal dollars on targeted efforts that reduce foreign diseases before they strike. Animal ag represents over half of all farm receipts, and in order to protect this vital sector of the economy, there are two key pillars of our proposal. First, the prevention program administered by APHIS to build upon the 2014 Farm Bill. And second, it would further develop the cooperative agreements that allow states and other key players to strategically target areas of concern where there is an increased risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, I want to call Tom Haig. And next we'll hear from Collin Moriarty, who's Executive Director of Hunger Solutions, Minnesota.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity, Chairman.
You want to move a little closer
right.
to the mic? There you go.
There we go. Thank you for this opportunity to testify this morning. My name is Collin Moriarty, and I'm the Executive Director of Hunger Solutions, Minnesota. We're a statewide organization based in St. Paul with staff in Northeast and Southwest Minnesota. And we're engaged with a network of partners, including the Farmers Union and nearly 300 food shells statewide. We appreciate the committee's support for the nutrition title of the Farm Bill. The nutrition title has made healthy, nutritious foods available to thousands of low-income Minnesotans. And for Minnesota, a strong SNAP program has meant that we were able to increase the number of seniors and their access to nutritious foods, respond quickly in the face of the recession, and keep a safety net available during economic crises and natural disasters. Strong nutrition programs like TFAP and SNAP are critical to alleviating hunger in our community, and severe cuts as proposed in the federal budget jeopardize those successful programs. In Minnesota alone, nearly 120,000 people could lose their SNAP benefits and their access to nutritious foods that would be cut during at a time when families are struggling. TFAP makes nutritious foods available to emergency food networks while supporting prices for agricultural commodities like dairy and eggs in the Midwest. Hunger Solutions partners with the Minnesota Department of Human Services, the USDA, and several regional food banks to distribute the TFAP foods throughout the state of Minnesota. SNAP is critically important for struggling families with children who need the nutrition to be able to learn as we enter into a new school year. SNAP features make it particularly responsive during tough times. The ability of the program to expand enrollment with unemployment rises and contract when the economy improves is essential to the recovery of Minnesotans. And while enrollment has decreased in recent years as the economy improves, not all Americans and not all Minnesotans have enjoyed the same recovery. Hunger Solutions has worked with the Farmers Union, Blue Cross Blue Shield Center for Prevention, and business leaders in Minnesota like General Mills to get the message out about SNAP and healthy, nutritious foods and the meaning of this program to Minnesotans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, we will call up David Shevel, and our next presenter is Tom Haig, who's a board member for the National Corn Growers Association.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. With a year-ending stocks exceeding 2.4 billion bushels, the top goal for NCGA is to build demand for U.S. corn. A robust livestock industry, expanding exports, and a growing renewable fuels industry are central to achieving more profitable for the corn farmers. The Farm Bill risk management tools, as well as the market assistance and foreign market development programs, are critical to sustaining our family farms through this difficult environment. While most grain farmers enjoyed positive income from 2016 to 2013, when corn prices averaged $4.70 per bushel, incomes have dropped sharply since then, with prices averaging below $4, even falling to less than $3 here in our own state, which is well below our cost of production. Fortunately, the agriculture and the risk price loss coverage programs have performed as designed, providing much needed assistance. These commodity programs are essential, but the corn farmer's most important risk management tool is federal crop insurance. In NCGA's January 2016 risk management survey, our farmers' top concerns were potential cuts to premium discounts, coverage levels, and the revenue policy price component. To sum up, crop insurance provides well-targeted within-the-year protection against yield loss and declining prices, while ARC and PLC protect against multiple years of depressed markets. Finally, our members have voiced strong support for additional funding for the market assistance and foreign market development programs. For every dollar invested, these private-public partnerships are delivering $28 in exports. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the group.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call the on-deck area Ruth Haves, and our next presenter will be David Shevel with Foremost Farms.
Mr. Thesey, somehow my German and Dutch ancestors got Skavel out of that spelling.
Skavel? Okay, there we go.
I'm a dairy producer in southeast Minnesota near Preston, on the board of directors, as he said, of Foremost Farms. I'm speaking in support of the changes that have been proposed and already through your committee on the margin protection program. I believe they need to be made or the program will cease to exist because people will not sign up for it. I know personally I stayed out of it because I was in the livestock gross margin program before and I'm still in it, but I think I can utilize both of them if I had the ability to use both of them in the marketing toolbox, and I think a lot of other producers would be able to as well. The other thing I want to speak to is the labor shortage. As Mr. Buck alluded to, labor is increasingly important to the dairy industry. It's getting harder and harder to find help. I believe we need an expedited guest worker program. I think that H-2A adjustments is a good first step to that. And also the domestic workforce. I think there's some of them that are sitting on the sidelines. I would like to find a way that we can move some of them back into the active participation in the workforce again. So thank you.
Thank you. Next to the staging area, on deck area, will be Dwayne Anderson, and our next presenter is Ruth Haves with Minnesota Ducks Unlimited.
Good morning and welcome. Mr. Chairman, Congressman Peterson, members of the staff, welcome. My name is Ruth Haves from Lee Center, Minnesota, Le Sueur County. I'm a longtime farmer and livestock raiser on a 350-acre farm that was in my family since 1950. I'm also the current state chair of Minnesota's Ducks Unlimited, first lady in this role. I'm so happy to speak on behalf of the 1 million members and supporters nationwide and the 46,000 plus members across Great Minnesota. DU is a proud partner in the USDA and developing conservation programs or delivering conservation programs on the ground with farmers, ranchers, and landowners. We understand that the passage of the Farm Bill requires trust, coalition building, compromise, and consensus among a broad, diversified groups and regions so that we can work hard together to strengthen these partnerships. Conservation programs are a key part of the safety net used by farmers and ranchers to maximize on-farm efficiency and productivity to maintain soil health, water quality, wildlife habitat on our lands. Conservation is in high demand across the country and here in Minnesota. DU supports wetland, grassland protections for the benefit of soil and water conservation, fish and wildlife habitat. We support strong funding for important working land programs such as Environmental Quality Incentive Program, EQIPT, and the Conservation Stewardship Program, CSP. We support an improved Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, with expanded managed grazing opportunities that improve wildlife habitat, including emergency haying and grazing during times the drought, like with drought in Dakotas and Montana. We also support the robust agricultural conservation easement program. This is a normally popular program demanded by those who virtually seek to protect their land through conservation easements. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I enjoy visiting with you.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, I'd like to call Terry Vanderpool, and our next presenter is Dwayne Anderson with Farmers Union Industries.
I'm Dwayne Anderson, President and CEO of Farmers Union Industries, headquartered in Redwood Falls, Minnesota. I live in Morgan, grew up here in Minnesota. Since 1929, FUI has done business that supports grain farmers and livestock and poultry producers across the Midwest by turning their non-edible production into new high-value products. I serve on the board of directors of the National Renters Association. Rendering accounts for $10 billion in economic activity each year. Our companies provide tens of thousands of year-round jobs in rural and urban communities with competitive salaries and benefits. Each year, rendering upcycles over 56 billion pounds of leftover animal byproducts and used restaurant cooking oil into valuable ingredients for many high-value products. These include animal feed, pet food, biodiesel, and personal care and industrial items. Rendering has positive environmental benefits. For example, upcycling animal byproducts sequesters at least 5 times as many greenhouse gases emissions as it emits. This has the same effect as taking 12.2 million cars off the road each year. There are several important issues for the renderers. First, NRA supports a strong renewable fuel standard and continued federal biodiesel tax credits since we supply 30% of the feedstock for the U.S. biodiesel production. Second, in the Farm Bill, we urge you to make decisions that allow U.S. farmers and ranchers, our customers, to remain competitive and improve their economic health. Third, with 20% of our products sold overseas, we urge increased funding for the Market Access Program and the Foreign Market Development Program to help boost export sales and income for farmers, ranchers, and others in agriculture. Last, please ensure that the animal byproducts and used cooking oils are not considered waste in any food waste legislation. Our raw materials are vital inputs to produce high-value ingredients. We urge you not to distort the market with federal incentives, encouraging other recyclers to use these raw materials to produce low-value products such as methane, fertilizer, and soil amendments. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Next to the staging area, on-deck area, Aletta Borrode. Our next presenter will be Terry Vanderpool with the Land Stewardship Project.
Good morning. My name is Terry Vanderpool. I farm not too far from here. I have a cow-calf operation, and I work with the Land Stewardship Project. With that project, I work with farmers and landowners in the Chippewa River watershed to find profitable approaches to improve water quality and wildlife habitat. We're meeting with considerable success in doing that. We're finding that continuous living cover is absolutely critical, and there are profitable ways to integrate livestock into diverse cropping systems that include perennials. Historically, the EQIP program has been a very, very important tool in our toolbox, and it seems to be going away. We're finding in all 6 of the counties that we work in that EQIP funding is going to a very small number of huge contracts. Innovative projects from family farmers that will improve water quality, things like grazing cover crops to improve soil health and their bottom line, converting marginal cropland to grasslands with managed grazing are left out. And what we're hearing from these farmers is, don't even bother to apply for EQIP, that's just for the big guys. These mid-sized family farmers are really where a lot of innovation can happen around building soil health and making conservation pay on working farmland. And we really encourage you to support EQIP and to make it more available to more producers by putting some meaningful caps on. And I do thank you, because that's just the way my parents raised me. And also I want to just mention that broadband is extremely, extremely important in the rural areas. Please attend to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we would like to call Mark Olson to the on-deck area. And our next presenter is Aletta Borrud Family Farms.
Yes, thank you. I'm Aletta Borrud and a member also of the Land Stewardship Project. I am a owner of a small grain family farm with my siblings in northwestern North Dakota. Northwest North Dakota is facing, quote, exceptional or the most severe level of drought. This raises 2 issues. One, FSA loans. I oppose any proposal to increase limits for the, quote, guaranteed FSA operating loans through banks to as much as $2.5 million as was recently proposed. What family farms really borrow $2.5 million? Bankers may then favor big industrial farms, imagining that bigger means better farming practice. Could mega farms usurp the available funds, leaving none for family farms and letting them sink? I would favor an increase in the direct loan limits, non-increase in limits for the guaranteed FSA loans through banks. The second item, resiliency. In addition to putting farm bill money into crop insurance, I would advocate increasing support for farming practices that actually build resiliency by increasing soil organic matter as a buffer against drought. Liberalizing the CSP, or the Conservation Stewardship Program payments, supports innovations. I know that NDSU is doing really groundbreaking research out in western North Dakota. And so farmers need support to really incorporate the use of these innovations, such as interseeding, use of continuous cover crops, and diversification through crop rotations. My family would need CSP support to incorporate these innovations. Finally, we need a Marshall Plan for rural America. Across the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, rural towns are dying. Young people want the farm, stay on the farm. To keep rural America alive, we need to invest in our family farmers. They are the anchors for these communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call Bill Post. Our next presenter is Mark Olson.
Good morning. I'm a farmer from Chippewa County, and want to speak a little bit about crop insurance. There seems to be, I support organic farmers and organic farming, but there's a disparaging between the election prices and the guaranteed levels that the organic farmers can achieve and the conventional farmers. That is encouraging some fraudulent practices, I believe. The organic price for corn is $9.03. My price is $3.93. And with the county guarantees, they can guarantee over $300 more per acre with fewer input costs. So I think this is something that needs to be addressed and hasn't been talked about. Also, between the 1985 and 1990 farm bills, there was a designation of converted wetlands created. And the converted wetland was in the time of the sodbusters first was written. And for 30 years now, we've had ground that has been tiled, that could be farmed, that we're telling farmers they can't farm it. The regulations for operating around it are much more strict than a designated wetland, because these boundaries were measured by 2-meter photographs in the 1985, and today we're measuring them to inches. And if you go across that imaginary line, you're in violation of all your farm program payments. So I would suggest removing the converted wetlands or taking a look at redesignation. Thank you.
Thank you. To the on-deck area, I'll call Steve Schlangen, and our next presenter will be Bill Post, who's a dairy farmer.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, appreciate the opportunity. I come to talk to you about trade. I'm a small dairy farmer from southwest Minnesota. I farm with my wife and 2 kids. We milk 120 cows with robots. You probably wonder, why am I worried about trade? Well, I'm the 3rd generation dairy farmer, and I've got a 4th coming. If we don't have trade, we're going to lose our markets for the milk. With Mr. Trump talking about building a wall to Mexico, we'll probably lose some of our workers coming. Our larger dairies need the workers. We put in the robots, but we still need the trade. And with the wall going up, will that impede our trade? I believe Mexico is one of our major buyers for milk. So take that into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, I'd like to call Vicki Poyer, and our next presenter is Steve Schlangen, Associated Milk Producers Chairman.
Chairman Conway, Ranking Member Peterson, committee members. I am Steve Schlangen. I'm a dairy farmer from Albany, Minnesota, and I'm chairman of the board of directors of Associated Milk Producers Incorporated, headquartered here in New Ulm, Minnesota. EMPI is owned by about 2,000 dairy farmers, and we operate a network of 10 manufacturing plants throughout the upper Midwest, where we manufacture 10% of the American type cheese in the country, 10% of the whey, 10% of the butter, and 10% of the American sliced cheese. Thank you for this opportunity. There's a common agreement among dairy farmers that the margin protection program created in the 2014 Farm Bill is ineffective. I believe the program did not have the opportunity to live up to its potential as a result of changes made following CBO scoring, which diluted the feed cost formula. The result has been a program that does not provide the safety net we need, and consequently has become widely rejected by dairy farmers. What can be done? To begin, dairy farmers are not looking for handouts. We are seeking a toolbox of options to better manage risk and the pain associated with times of low margins. I believe this can be accomplished in 4 key ways. First, and perhaps the quickest opportunity, is to urge the USDA to take immediate action and clarify that the $20 million annual cap limit on risk management livestock insurance programs does not apply to products of livestock such as milk. This will pave the way for the USDA Risk Management Agency to provide a dairy insurance option much similar to what already exists for crop farmers. Second would be the reduced MPP premiums for the first 4 to 5 million pounds of production per farm. Doing this would increase affordability of the program and make it more attractive. Third would be to have a monthly margin calculation as opposed to the current bi-monthly system. Operating in this way would make the program more timely in responding to market conditions. And fourth, and certainly most significant would be to restore the original feed cost formula back to the level that was established earlier in the last Farm Bill. I recognize there are budget challenges with this, but for dairy farmers to utilize the program, they need to see a feed cost formula that more closely reflects what they are experiencing on their farms. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, I want to call Kyle Peterson. Our next presenter is Vicki Poyer with Bread for the World.
I'm Vicki Poyer, and we farm near Montevideo, Minnesota. And as he said, I'm a member of Bread for the World, which is a Christian advocacy group for those who are hungry, both at home and internationally. And so many people have already spoken eloquently about the need to support SNAP and food programs that food programs are at home and around the world. So I'm not going to say more about that. But just as a farmer, it's like we produce food, and the result should be that food feeds people. And with so many people hungry in the world, it's so important that we make food accessible to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could ask, if people want to visit, would you please step outside out of respect for the members of the House Ag Committee and those in the audience that want to hear the presenters? We're getting a lot of background noise coming around the edges. So if you want to visit, that's fine, but then please step outside and do it rather than in the building here. Thank you. Next, I'd like to call Howard Olson to the staging area, and our next presenter, Kyle Peterson with Southern Minnesota Beet Sugar Co-op.
First off, thank you so much for your attentiveness up there. You guys have really been paying attention. I've been watching, and we appreciate that very much. Thanks for listening to all of us. My name is Kyle Peterson, and I am the chairman of the Southern Minnesota Beet Sugar Co-op in Renville. Our co-op includes over 500 shareholders, and part of our growing area is where we sit today. The shareholders of Southern Minnesota Beet Sugar Co-op raise sugar beets, corn, soybeans, sweet corn, peas, alfalfa, edible beans, and also have several livestock operations. In order for our industry to survive, members of your committee know full well that we must manage our risks through fair trade policies, an adequate price safety net, and effective and affordable crop insurance. Most crop farmers borrow more in 1 year to produce a crop than most Americans do in a lifetime. Our growers and our bankers need strong risk management tools, like crop insurance, that are essential in order to secure operating loans to grow our crop. With more frequent and intense weather patterns, rising interest rates and production costs, and lower commodity prices, our risk has gone up while our balance sheets have gone down. We simply have to have affordable crop insurance to manage those risks. Above and beyond, beginning farmer provisions are of extreme importance, as they do not have the reserves and equity built up compared to people that have been farming for years. The Congress simply cannot allow funding reductions for our crop insurance coverage and create a lending crisis for our producers. Sugar beets are different than other commodities in the fact that from the time we prepare our land, produce, process, and sell our crop, we have a 2-year investment return cycle. We borrow to plant the next crop well before we are paid for the last crop. Sugar beet farmers across America ask for your support to maintain multi-peril crop insurance as a good risk management tool so we can continue to do what we do best, grow sugar for the American consumer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next to the staging area, I'd like to call Eric DeBleek, and our next presenter is Howard Olson with the Ag Country Farm Credit Services and American Sugar Beet Growers.
Good morning. I'm Howard Olson. As he said, I'm from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and I work at Ag Country Farm Credit Services in Fargo, North Dakota. We work with over 18,000 farmers across parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, including sugar beet growers in the Red River Valley and right here in southern Minnesota. I'm offering today a lender's perspective on crop insurance and the sugar program on behalf of the American Sugar Beet Growers Association. At Ag Country Farm Credit, we utilize a risk chain analysis when we assess the risk involved with a loan with our customers. The first link in that risk chain analysis is crop insurance. Today's farm economy, even just an average yield on the farm, that farmer is going to have a net loss and a net loss of income. At a 75% crop insurance level, they're deep into a loss before crop insurance even kicks in. When that happens, they start burning working capital, equity, and other assets. And eventually, we have to have a discussion with them about selling assets to raise cash or possibly even getting out of the business. When there's a crop loss, there's going to be a loss of income on the farm, but with a good crop insurance program and working capital, we may help them farm another year. If premium support is reduced or capped, farmers will choose to go to a lower crop insurance level to cut some of their costs, and they're going to assume more of the risk themselves. That's going to increase the gamble of farming and increase the stakes. At Ag Country and other lenders would probably very well increase the amount of working capital that is required to offset that reduction in crop insurance protection. And working capital is getting extremely difficult to get and create, and we may find a lot of farmers that would be unable to get operating financing. Also, we need a strong sugar program to support our sugar beet farmers, and we want to see an increase in funding and loan limits on our FSA loan guarantees. And one final thought from my view in the seats as a taxpayer who likes to eat, we've got the lowest cost food in the world, and that benefits our economy and all of our people in America. All of our people. A strong farm safety net and a strong crop insurance program are key components to keeping that low-cost food. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, we want to call Jay Moore. Next, we're going to hear from Eric DeBleek with the Grain Millers Incorporated.
Good morning. My name is Eric DeBleek with Grain Millers, and I'm speaking on behalf of the organic industry. Grain Millers is a conventional, non-GMO, and organic food ingredient manufacturer based out of Eden Prairie and operating across the U.S. and Canada. Focused on producing high-quality grain products. These grains include barley, wheat, soybeans, flax, triticale, corn, and with the backbill of our milling industry being oats. The $47 billion a year organic industry is a bright spot for our farm economy. Organic agriculture boosts local economies, raising household incomes, reducing poverty levels, and creating benefits for rural areas. Organic provides a profitable opportunity to farmers, a unique option for aspiring farmers, an opportunity to incorporate more family members into the operation, and choices to consumers. Opportunities for continued rural growth can be seen through this ever-growing marketplace. While Grain Millers has seen slow growth in the conventional business, we have seen consistent high rates of growth approaching and exceeding up to 10% in the organic sector. This growth has caused companies to direct sourcing efforts to other regions to meet growing demand, with Canada being the place where we source those grains. Our growth, it is our goal to continue to move those sourcing efforts back to Minnesota and the upper Midwest, but need a strong and successful sector to accomplish these efforts. The organic industry relies on well-funded support for organic through USDA's NOP. What we need for the 2018 Farm Bill are policies and protections that strengthen the integrity of the USDA Farm Bill, or the USDA Organic Seal, boosts investment in research, and supports the expansion of organic acres.
Thank you. Next to the staging area, we want to call Robert Gervais, and our next presenter is Jay Moore, Minnesota Pork Producers Association.
Good morning. Just want to reiterate the need for a robust foot and mouth disease vaccine program. Right now, we couldn't even handle a small outbreak with the vaccine that's available. And just so everyone knows, a small outbreak, talking about one county in Minnesota or Iowa, we have just a few limited strands of the antigen available, and then the time sequence. We'd have to ship that over to France or England to produce the vaccine, and then the turnaround. So we're really at a risk right now. I always hear it's not if, but when. And so if an outbreak did occur, it would be, first thing, our exports would be totally cut off, and then just the devastation of the entire ag sector. So for an example, just the beef and pork, it would negatively impact us $128 billion over a 10-year period. You know, corn growers, soybean growers, $44 billion, $25 billion respectively. You know, those four industries would mean $200 billion. So, you know, this is a drop in a bucket. And so, as we know, we're all connected to agriculture. We need to protect it. And so just encourage, you know, do what you can to get that. And so I know the National Pork Producer Council will be asking for $150 million in the Farm Bill on an annual basis to get us where we need to be. And so 30 million of that would go towards a national animal health laboratory network, and then also the $70 million earmarked for states, so the states can have the resources they need to respond quickly to a foreign disease outbreak. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, I'd like to call Craig Olson. Our next presenter is Robert Gervais with True Shrimp.
Chairman Conway, members of the committee, I'm Robert Gervais. I'm the Director of Operations and Government Relations for the True Shrimp Company in Ballatin, Minnesota. It is estimated that 10 billion people will be on the earth by the year 2050. They will need food. It's estimated by the source Worldometer that 12,000 people die every day of starvation, and 770 million people are undernourished around the globe at any time. Seafood is a much-needed protein source. The ocean fisheries, particularly shrimp, do not have the capacity for more harvesting. Aquaculture is a piece of the puzzle and should be supported by any ag bill and farm bill in the future. It is a protein on quality par with the pork, poultry, and beef industries. 3% of the U.S. trade deficit is seafood alone, of which 45% of that is the shrimp alone, largely from Southeast Asia. It is an industry plagued by disease. We at True Shrimp desire to continue to contribute to the world food supply through our sustainable aquaculture industry. We ask your support through the continued development of aquaculture in the United States and the mainstream source of protein. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Next to the on-deck area, I'd like to call Susan Griebel. Our next presenter, Craig Olson with the North Dakota Soybean Growers.
Good morning, I'm Craig Olson with the North Dakota Soybean Growers Association. I'm from southeast North Dakota, and I'm happy to be here and glad you guys are listening. Thank you for your time. A few things. Thanks for you guys' help with the drought in North Dakota. It's real serious in the western part of the state, and we continue with your guys' support. Thank you on that. Which also brings the importance of crop insurance, and a strong key component of this is helping our producers in the central to western part of the state through this tough time when it's dry. In North Dakota, we have to worry about trade. We are landlocked, and a lot of our products are shipped overseas. Trade is very important to our state, so keep that on the front burner. Conservation is another big issue, too. We have a lot of wetland issues in North Dakota. With you guys' help, they have been fixed, and things are getting better. We still have some mitigation process we need help with to improve these wetlands, so we're not farming them. We can move them aside and set them aside, and we can, not touch them. And with that, we can tile the ground, and we can improve our crop insurance by untiling ground. We can reduce our risk with the tile, and it would help on the cost of crop insurance. One last thing, a couple last things. U.S. Fish and Wildlife easements. The setbacks are different than the NRCS. I would like to encourage you guys to look into that and make sure that these easements setbacks are the same as the NRCS rules, because it's really hard on these farmers. The setbacks are almost impossible to do any sort of farming around even. And with those easements, we should look into having the chance to buy back. These farmers should have the chance to buy back their easements at whatever price. With that, thank you for your time today. I'll keep it short, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, I would ask those of you at the east door, if you want to visit, please step outside. We're getting a lot of background noise coming in here, so or whisper rather than give a speech, okay? Thank you. Next, we'd like to call Jean Paul to the on-deck area, and our next presenter will be Susan Griebel.
Good morning. I live on a small dairy farm of 70 cows near New Ulm, Minnesota with my husband's family. Together we raise barley, alfalfa, corn, and soybeans on 500 acres, half of which is rented from the neighbors. My husband and I are members of the Land Stewardship Project. Our 2018 Farm Bill can be the best farm bill ever by doing more to encourage farmers and farmer wannabes to use conservation methods that increase soil health while providing us all with healthy organic plants and animals for our food. It makes sense because we all reap the benefits of our own good health, healthy food, breathing clean air, drinking clean water, having clean water to bathe in, and a clean environment in which we work, play, and rest. It makes sense because we will be handing this land, this air, and this water over to our children and grandchildren. I work part-time at a small feed store. Many of our farmer customers must work off the farm to make enough money to pay their bills. Our 2018 Farm Bill can provide the education, the incentive, the support to encourage new farmers to start farming and to keep current farmers on their land. Our Farm Bill can create a lively, bustling farm sector. More farms, more farmers, create a resilient local economy and vibrant communities. Our 2018 Farm Bill can be the best farm bill ever. By promoting and rewarding farmers committed to conservation practices that deliver the greatest environmental benefits. Let's try it for 50 or 100 years, see how it goes. We can always go back. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call Stephen Hoffman to the on-deck area. Our next presenter is Jean Paul with the National Farmers Organization.
As has been said before, a reliable safety net is important for farmers. In the past few years, that has always been crop insurance, and so we urge you to continue with adequate funding for the crop insurance program. But perhaps take a look at the program when we've had a history of low commodity prices the last few years. It may not provide the safety net that farmers really need, so are there some reforms that could be put into it that give farmers some more choices that would give them an adequate safety net. We'd like to encourage support for dairy farmers. We know that the MPP program needs to be fixed, but you also need to be aware that I believe that will be a hard sell to dairy farmers because they've had a bad experience with it in the past couple of years. Also, some type of program that would manage growth of dairy in this country would be helpful. In some areas of the country, milk is being dumped. Federal Order 1 out in the Northeast has reported that just in the month of May, 25 million pounds was dumped. USDA has reported several million gallons of milk was dumped this past year because there are not adequate markets for that. And one of the things we need to be aware is that as that milk is dumped, the cost of that is assessed back against all dairy farmers, even those that have not increased production. And then lastly, we want a reliable inspection program for the imports of organic grain. That the imports that have been coming in, particularly from Turkey, have been mislabeled as they come across the ocean, and that has devastated the markets for our organic grain producers in this country. Organic grain will give producers an opportunity to live out in those rural areas and support their local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person I want to call to the staging area is Michael Pettifish. Next presenter is Stephen Hoffman, dairy farmer.
Thank you, Congressman and Congresswoman. I'm a dairy farmer just south of New Ulm here in central Minnesota. We have 140 cows. I farm with my wife, and I have 2 sons that also farm. So we are a slightly below average sized dairy here in the state of Minnesota. And I just want to, emphasize a few struggles we have and concerns. And I apologize ahead of time because what I'm going to talk about is the Dairy Pride Act. And I know that is not directly related to the Farm Bill, so I do apologize for that. But I would just like to encourage all of you to sign on to the Dairy Pride Act, which states that current regulation, Food and Drug Administration, defines dairy products as being from dairy animals. And even though I am also a corn and soybean grower, there are products in the dairy case in grocery stores that are labeled as milk, and they are not truly milk. They are soybean products and almond products and LJ products and all kinds of things. And I'm not saying they're not good. All I'm saying is that they should not be labeled with milk. They should have on their soybean drink or almond drink. And that's a big concern of us that kind of eats away at our market share in the dairy case. And we as dairy producers here in the United States, we need all of that market share along with our exports to Mexico. So that's my other comment. We need to keep that trade going with Mexico and the other countries. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call Mike Schneider. And our next presenter is Michael Pettifish, who's the president of Minnesota Soybean Growers.
I'm the current president of the Minnesota Soybean Growers Association. I'm also a third-generation farmer in southeast Minnesota. I think there's 3 areas of importance for the upcoming Farm Bill. The most important, most critical part is, of course, the crop insurance program. Prior to the 2014 Farm Bill, we had record high commodity prices, and as such, we took a $23 billion baseline reduction over the next 10 years. Well, since that time, a lot has changed. We've seen a 40 to 50% decrease in commodity prices and on-farm incomes. And so we would ask at a minimum that you maintain current levels of funding for the crop insurance program, or perhaps move back towards that goal of where we were prior to those cuts. I also think of importance in the next Farm Bill is the bioenergy program and the biomarket based programs. Those programs help us find new uses for our products, such as biodiesel, biolubricants, and a whole host of other products that not yet known or to be discovered that help create demand for our product and make us less dependent on that safety net of crop insurance. And so if we can create demand, it helps farm economies and the rural economy. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, I want to call Jeff Sherman. Our next presenter, Mike Schneider with Schneider Farms.
Hello, I'm a second-generation organic dairy farmer from Sacred Heart, Minnesota, just to the northwest of here, about a half hour. We've heard a lot about organic agriculture today, and for the most part, it's really a bright spot in agriculture. So I'm really just asking you, if we have a bright spot, let's work together and keep it. We have organic crop insurance, that's working well for the most part. We just, the NOP works well for the most part. We have heard about some issues with it, but for the most part, organic agriculture is really a bright spot. And when organic operations are profitable, we spend money on Main Street just like conventional operations, and it's just a trickle effect. So if we have a bright spot in agriculture, let's work together to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, I want to call Jim Riddle, and our next presenter is a farmer, Jeff Schwarman.
Hi. I'm fifth-generation family farmer from Nicollet County, Minnesota. I'm here to talk today about today's Farm Bill. When you do write it, I think there's far too much influence from large corporations and corporate farmings that are really masquerading as family farms. And I'm kind of glad to see there's 2 Iron Rangers on the board today, because I think who better than them to understand what happens when large East Coast corporations come into southern Minnesota or anywhere else and have failed business plans or to establish these large corporate farms that compete with local individuals and local generational farmers that have to compete for the resources that are here. I think you know all too well what happens when they come in and exploit the land and labor and resources, and then when it's no longer profitable, they just sort of up and leave and leave you with a lot of empty promises, I guess. So it's very hard today as a beginning farmer to compete with these large corporations and trying to build barns that are, you know, and to support the animal head units that they seem to require in their business models. So I hope that, you know, you'll think of the smaller farmers when you write this new bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the on deck area, we'll call Paul Sobositsky. Our next presenter is Jim Riddle, who's with the Organic Farmers Association.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jim Riddle. My wife and I raise perennial fruit, certified organic blue fruit farm near Winona. I serve as an advisor to the National Organic Coalition and steering committee chair of the Organic Farmers Association. I also chair the Minnesota Department of Ag's Organic Advisory Board. Data shows that the U.S. market for organic food has grown 80% over the last 6 years, but the amount of American organic cropland has only grown by 12% during that same time. This situation has led to a massive increase in questionable imports. As been mentioned, cargo ships of imported conventional corn and beans have been sold as organic in the U.S. This undercuts markets for bona fide American organic farmers. USDA must enforce our organic regulations. Currently, 70% of the organic soybeans and 40% of the organic corn are imported. If any crops can be grown organically in the U.S., it's corn and beans. But American farmers are reluctant to go through the 3-year transition process. The next farm bill must include a safety net to provide financial and technical support to farmers to switch some or all of their land to organic, comparable to the support they receive by staying conventional. A level playing field is needed so that transition to organic is a production choice, not an increased risk. A unique cost faced by organic farmers is the annual organic certification fee. The next farm bill must maintain the organic certification cost share, which began in Minnesota in 1998. Organic and transitional producers face all the same production challenges: extreme weather, changing markets, access to capital, and government red tape. On top of that, organic producers are required to take steps to protect their farms from contamination. Better mechanisms are needed to help organic farmers protect their land and give them the right to farm organically. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next to the on deck area, we want to call Scott Taylor. Our next presenter is another farmer, Paul Sobosinski.
My name is Paul Sobosinski. I'm a livestock farmer. I raise pigs for Nyman Ranch. I'm an independent producer, not a contract producer. I have this hat here. It says Our Farm Bill. And it says about a farm bill for the people and the land. And what we really need to think about is, as we think about the farm bill, if we want to have a farm bill for future generations, we have to make that connection with the rest of the community. The people in the towns, the people who work, the people, the consumer, and the people who care about soil and water. As I look at the issue of the farm bill, I think we have to look at the piece of how we help family farmers and beginning farmers. Help farmers to do right by the land by building soil health, growing diverse crops. A farm bill should lead to more people on the land, not less, more vibrant rural communities. This next farm bill should prioritize farmers. You know, farmers first over corporate agribusiness mergers that only lead to squeezing farmers more and more. Farmers in this room have been pressured with the mergers that have been allowed to go unstopped in terms of seed, chemicals, and we've also seen the whole push in the livestock concentration in terms of packers and processors. The second part I think we need to look at is how do we keep a farm bill for this future? Well, we have to have the farm bill doing a public good. And one of the connections, besides nutrition, is conservation. And one of the pieces that I think is really strong in a connecting piece is the farmer has the tools, and that is the Conservation Security Program. I think that's an important piece, and we ought to put the resources in there. And farmers need to be rewarded for diversity. The final piece is on crop insurance. We need some type of limit, some mechanism by which saying enough is enough. But we also need to look at more diversity. Crops like oats ought to be considered. Finally, the last piece I want to say is don't raise the loan limits on guaranteed operating loans. We need more dollars available to more farmers. We need more farmers. Thank you.
Okay, next to the on-deck area will be Matthew Fitzgerald. Our next presenter is Scott Taylor with National Pheasant Conservation Plan.
Thank you and good morning. The National Pheasant Conservation Plan represents a partnership among 23 state wildlife agencies and Pheasants Forever. We have member states from Washington and Oregon to Texas to Pennsylvania and points north. And our mission is to foster science-based policies and programs that promote pheasant conservation, pheasant hunting, and communities that they depend on. We polled our members earlier this year with regard to what the states felt was their most important items, their needs with regard to the Farm Bill in 2018. And number one with a bullet was increasing the CRP acreage cap. We've seen over the life of CRP that as CRP goes, so goes pheasants and to a large extent grassland wildlife across the northern half of the country. As the acreage cap has come down in the last 2 decades, we've seen pheasant hunting decline, pheasant populations decline, and the loss of an important tool in the toolbox for grassland wildlife conservation. Since 2000, we've lost about 40% of our pheasant hunters, from 1.25 million of them to less than 700,000. That's not a good trend. The spending that they generate, we've lost about 35% of that as well. And that spending supports not only state wildlife agencies, but rural communities as well. So I appreciate your consideration and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, would like to call to the on-deck area Jake Hamlin, and our next presenter is Matthew Fitzgerald with Central Minnesota Young Farmers Coalition.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Fitzgerald. I'm a 25-year-old beginning farmer. I raise organic grains with my family in Hutchinson, Minnesota. I kind of wish I was in the hot coffee business this morning because it's a little cold and you guys are staying with us, so I appreciate that. I'd like to share a little bit about the context for beginning farmers in Minnesota and ask for some help at the federal level. In Minnesota, we're facing a crisis for the next generation of farmers. Less than 4% of farmers in Minnesota are under the age of 35. That's lower than the national average. We face many issues, but like our friends and fellow farmers across the country, the number one issue is access to land. That's not a unique issue in Minnesota, but we're working on local solutions. In this last legislative session, the Central Minnesota Young Farmers Coalition, along with the Minnesota Farmers Union, the Farm Bureau, and LSP, worked to create a tax credit incentive. This incentive helped transition land to beginning farmers through a tax credit going to retiring landowners and farmers. It's a win-win solution, and we're doing our part at the state level. We now need help at the federal level. There are 2 tangible options that will help in the next 2018 Farm Bill. The first is direct farm ownership loans. It's a terrific program that helps build critical equity and secure land for the long term. Unfortunately, those loans are capped at $300,000, which doesn't reflect the reality of land prices, despite the current ag depression that we're experiencing. Our ask is to raise the cap to $500,000 or to create a regional index that reflects the actual market trends. Secondly, young farmers need access to training, budget management skills, financial planning, and mentorship. The Beginning Farmer Rancher Development Program is the only program in the Farm Bill specifically designed to do that. It's currently funded at $20 million. Our ask is to reach baseline funding by the end of the 2018 bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next to the on-deck area, we'll call James Kahn, and our next presenter is Jake Hamlin with CHS.
Mr. Chairman and members, thanks for being here today. I am here on behalf of our member directors from Minnesota who are currently in district meetings here, as well as our chairman and other board members who are also hosting town halls in your respective states. So CHS wants to see good farmland remain in production. That said, we play an active role in implementing on-farm conservation practices with our owners and members. Thus, what we'd like to see going forward then is the maintenance of funds for working land conservation programs like the Environmental Quality Incentive Program and the Conservation Stewardship Program. So Mr. Chairman and members, we do look forward to hoping to have the opportunity to work with you and identify ways to target some of those conservation dollars toward programs that will focus on nutrient management and water quality in your respective states and your districts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we will call to the on-deck area, John Buseman, and we're going to hear from James Connie with the Land Stewardship Project.
Good morning. I would like to say that walking through Farm Fest and after a lifetime of being a farmer, I would say there's plenty of money in farming, but it doesn't stay in farmers' pockets very long. We have always been the means that other people, corporations, businesses have made huge profits off of us, and we have never been the end that the Farm Bill is aimed at. I would like for once in my lifetime, just once, to see a Farm Bill where the end result is more family farmers. Right now, we are diminishing in the number of family farms across this country, and our communities are shrinking, and as a result, we are losing our clout in Congress. As you said, we're down to 36 Congress people who are really directly related into a farming area. As such, I would like to see a farm bill that increases the number of family farms across this country. To do so, we have to look at the emphasis first and foremost on the people. And from that point, we go forward into things like conservation and needs that we look for in those areas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next presenter will be John Buseman with Buseman Farms.
I'm John Busman from Chandler, Minnesota, and we are a farm family masquerading as a corporation. My sister-in-law and I and her kids, we're trying to manage a farm and having a great time doing it. But I'd like to take us away from this part of the world and go overseas. I've had the privilege of working in many parts of the world that are much less privileged than ourselves, and we have like 25 million people in dire need of food aid. And there have been proposals to zero out a lot of the programs that the U.S. government has sponsored in the past through the agriculture, through the Farm Bill and others, but we cannot do that. This is so cheap an investment to put money into our international food aid programs, and the investment pays off now in saved lives and in the future in relationships that we simply can't build in any other way. It's soft diplomacy, it's cheap diplomacy, and it works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And obviously, we had another stack here, and on behalf of Chairman Conway and the rest of the committee, we apologize we couldn't get to them all, but there's a show on here at noon, so we do have to wrap this up. But I do want to encourage those of you and any others that have input if you have some written comments, I think you can maybe leave them with staff. But they also have a website at houseaglistens@mail.house.gov. That's houseaglistens@mailhouse.gov, where anybody can submit comments, correct, Chairman Conway, about the next Farm Bill. And thank you to all of you for your comments. I'm going to turn it back to Chairman Conway to wrap this up.
Is this working? Okay. I want to thank the chairman for coming out to the 7th District of Minnesota, and I want to thank the members. There's no international airport here close in Redwood Falls, and so it's not an easy thing to get out here. And I want to especially, Dwight Evans left. He drank too much coffee like I did. But I just want to thank him because I think he wins the award. He had his plane canceled, then he had his plane delayed. He got in at 2 o'clock in the morning last night, and he still got here this morning, and he doesn't have a single farmer in his district. And that's the kind of commitment we have from people on the Ag Committee. And it's people like Dwight Evans and other folks from the urban area that we have to rely on to help us pass this bill. We can't do it with just those of us in Ag. So thank the members, thank all of you for hanging in there, and thank the chairman, and we're looking forward to getting this done and making it happen.
Well, thank you, Collin, and you're a great partner. I look forward to working with you. Thank each and every one of you for coming and allowing us to hear your passion, to hear your stories, to hear your ideas. We're going to fold all of those into the effort that we'll make in trying to get this new Farm Bill done. In talking leadership, we want to have our bill on the floor toward the end of this calendar year or early next year. Thank you, to get that done. I'm driven to get it done on time. Hadn't been done on time in 16 years. Collin and I are going to get this thing done before it expires in September. If you want the drama of extensions and expirations and permanent law threats, all that kind of stuff, I need you to go to a different theater because we're going to try to avoid that altogether. We'll have very difficult decisions to make. You heard conflicting testimony today across a variety of issues. We're going to need the wisdom of Solomon to be able to parse all this through and get that Farm Bill done that makes the most sense. The decisions we make will not be any easier in October than they are in August and September. And so you got 2 CPAs, the only committee in Congress led by 2 CPAs. We're going to get this thing done and done on time if either one of us have anything to do with that. This September, we'll celebrate the 230th anniversary of our Constitution. 230 years of living in this way that we've lived. And when that document was finished, Benjamin Franklin was asked by a woman after he finished, "Good doctor, what are you giving us, a monarchy or a republic?" And he looked at her and said, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." Think about that, if you can keep it. For 230 years, good Americans have kept this republic. Through hard times and good times, we've kept the republic. John Adams wrote that only a moral and religious people can self-govern. Self-governing people keep the republic. As I look at our country, I'm deeply concerned about the moral high ground that we are losing day in and day out. That is slipping away from us, and we will no longer be able to self-govern unless we reclaim that moral high ground. We all ask God to bless this country, and we do that with heartfelt enthusiasm. Think about from time to time just exactly what you're asking God to bless that's going on in our country. Can we bless the killing of 57 million babies in the last 44 years? That's twice the population of Texas, plus 5 million babies. The stuff that comes out of Hollywood that we think is entertainment, the way we deify the folks who put that on. The breakup of the nuclear family and the impact that has on the moral compasses of children. These and lots of other things going on in this country, God cannot and will not bless. And you and I have to step into the breach And that's the other question you have to ask. What's my personal role in making that happen? This isn't a collective. This isn't a legislative issue. This is an individual effort. Each one of us has a specific role, starting today, to reclaim that moral high ground so that we can extend this self-governance scheme another 230 years. You got to do that by living a code. I live the Judeo-Christian model. Jesus Christ is my personal Savior, and I try to live His tenets every single day, and some days I'm better at it than others. But you have to live a code as well. You and your family, your neighborhood, your community, all of us have those concentric rings of influence where every day we have to stand up for the truths and the values that have sustained the Republic for 230 years. Each of us has a role. What are we asking God to bless, and what's my role in reclaiming that moral high ground? It's a republic, madam, if we can keep it. God bless each one of you. God bless Texas, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much. Good to be with you.
Thank you to the U.S. House Ag Committee and Chairman Conway. And the Linder Farm Network Noon Show will be coming up in just a few minutes.